Good morning. Welcome, members, friends, and newcomers who are joining us today and in person or online. On behalf of the entire congregation, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley. I'm Evan Clark. I'll be your worship associate and actually your speaker for today's service. We wish to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Shawnee and Manahoac tribes prior to the arrival of the European settlers who then took this land for their own. We come together each Sunday morning as a community of seekers, seekers of what's most important in our lives, seekers of understanding in the face of uncertainty and loss, seekers of forgiveness for our shortcomings, seekers of gratitude for unexpected gifts we receive from all around us. We gather in awe of the beauty of nature and the mysteries of the universe. But most importantly, we come together as seekers of community in love and empowerment, celebrating our search for truth and meaning in our daily lives. In my new job, I've been charged with driving around the Shenandoah Valley, helping different people, and I've noticed the greening up the mountains. The trees have gotten progressively more green. So I just want to take the time on this Earth Day Sunday to appreciate the beauty that's all around us in the Shenandoah Valley. At this time, Gina will come with Maisie and Sean to light the chalice. And we'll say the words for the lighting of the chalice. In the light of the truth, in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Also, I'd like to invite us to recite the covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is a sacrament. to dwell together in peace, seek the truth and freedom. To these ends we covenant one with another. Opening song will be 203, All Creatures of Earth and Sky, and that's in the big hymnal. At this time, I'm pleased to ask Ed Jeffy to come forward, and he will talk to us about You Must Teach Your Children by Chief Seattle.
Well, good morning. So we talked earlier at the start of the service about being on the lands of the Shawnee and the Manahoac. Chief Seattle, better known perhaps to the Native Americans as Chief Sealth, like seal with the TH on the end, was the leader of the, let me get this right, the Duwamish and Suquamish tribes in the far northwest. He was a wise man, and he offered these words to his people and to us. You must teach your children that the ground beneath their feet is the ashes of our grandchildren. so that they will respect the land. Tell your children that the earth is rich with the lives of our kin. Teach your children what we have taught our children, that the earth is our mother. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. If men spit upon the ground, they spit upon themselves. This we know, the earth does not belong to man, man belongs to the earth. This we know, all things are connected, like the blood which unites one family, all things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself.
Our story today is We Are Water Protectors. Water is the first medicine, Nokomis told me. We come from water. It nourished us inside our mother's body, and it nourishes us here on Mother Earth. Water is sacred, she said. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. The river's rhythm runs through my veins, runs through my people's veins. My people talk of a black snake that will destroy the land, spoil the water, poison plants and animals, wreck everything in its path. When my people first spoke of the black snake, they foretold that it wouldn't come for many, many years. Now the black snake is here. Its venom burns the land, courses through the water, making it unfit to drink. Take courage. I must keep the black snake away from my village's water. I must rally my people together to stand for the water, to stand for the land, to stand as one against the black snake. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. It will not be easy. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, the winged ones, the crawling ones, the four-legged, the two-legged, the plants, trees, rivers, lakes. The earth. We are all related. Tears like waterfalls stream down, tracks down my face, tracks down my people's faces. Water has its own spirit, Nokomis told me. Water is alive. Water remembers our ancestors who came before us, she said. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. We are stewards of the earth. Our spirits have not been broken. We are water protectors. We stand. The black snake is in for the fight of its life. Thank you.
At this time, we'll sing the children out 413. Go now in peace. The message today, we have a sermon originally delivered by Dr. William S. Lynn, PhD, entitled Thinking About Nature, Do Environmental Ethics Matter? How we value and relate to nature is certainly important. For those of us less philosophically inclined, however, we may legitimately ask if they matter. Do environmental ethics make a difference, or are they a distraction from the central business of environmental politics and policies? Let us explore this challenge by beginning with a story. You're having a dinner with friends and new acquaintances at a local restaurant. The conversation turns to protecting the environment. One of the acquaintances advocates what amounts to pillaging the earth for the resources necessary for economic growth. The conversation becomes heated. You debate the negative social externalities of pollution, the idiocy of wasteful consumption, the naive faith in high technology, the human need to experience the natural world for physical and psychological health, the importance of balancing human populations to the Earth's carrying capacity, the viability of alternative forms of economic development, our responsibilities to children and future generations, political economy, environmental justice, and questions of biodiversity. Finally, in a condescending and sneering manner, your protagonist accuses you of being a tree hugger. So what's wrong with that, you ask? Trees are just things, he responds. I care about people. So do I, but nature has rights too. Nature can't have rights, only people can, because people make those rights. They're political. What you're really saying is that trees are as valuable as people. I think that's immoral. People come first in my book. At this point, your friends begin to squirm. You can see it in their eyes. She's gone off the deep end again. Everyone would like to talk about something else, anything but the rights of nature. And once again, you feel, well, cheated. Later that week, you discuss this with your best friend. The guy's an intellectual gnat. His views are simplistic. Besides, I know the issues, and I was persuasive. Yet defending this position on the basis of morals, that is, saying humans have a greater moral value than anything else in nature, seemed to turn the tables. And you know what? I don't know what to say or how to respond. Why? Well, I've never really thought about it before. And maybe he's right. After all, humans are the most advanced and dominant life form on the planet, aren't they? Since only humans think morally, we can't have moral obligations to anything that isn't human, can we? This makes human needs primary, doesn't it? So how can I defend the notion of nature as a moral value? Besides, what the hell do I really mean by the rights of nature anyway? Then again, why is it that anyone invoking economic growth or human superiority is recognized as reasonable? Why is it that whenever I say nature has a moral value, I'm regarded as hysterical? Sound familiar? I expect so. Having experienced a similar scenario, I began to clarify my ethical assumptions regarding nature. So having recalled our common experience through the device of fiction, what do you think now? Is an environmental ethic important? My answer is yes. And while the reasons are many, I'll note just 3 practical ones. First, a moral appreciation of nature forms one of the core motivations for being an environmentalist. Second, environmental ethics helps justify environmentalism to others. And third, an ethic regarding nature clarifies our moral vision of how humans should relate to the natural world. Reason 1, core motivation. I often focus my attention on specific problems or political campaigns regarding the natural world. Many of us share this focus. Without a doubt, environmental policy and politics is central to our individual activities. Yet we can be preoccupied with these matters, losing the forest for the trees, and forgetting the reasons why we became environmentalists. We may fail to generate recognize, or articulate our conceptions about the moral value of nature. Indeed, the need to consider nature as in a moral way is a core motivation to why we became environmentalists in the first place. We want a safe, aesthetic, and fecund nature, not only for ourselves, our children, or other human beings, but because we have a direct moral obligation to some of all beings, entities, and processes of nature. Greenpeace activists in zodiacs blocking a whaling harpoon do not risk death because they want a more rational utilization of the whale resource. They act on the conviction that the whale is a being of moral worth, and it is our ethical obligation to protect her and her calf. Reason 2, justifying environmentalism. With other environmentalists, we often take this moral appreciation of nature on faith. Since we share this perspective, there seems little need to discuss, develop, or defend it. When this faith is challenged, however, we are inarticulate against the skeptic, indeed unable to defend our perspective, and it is taken as an unreasonable assumption. We may be accused of imposing our personal preferences on others, of being emotional over the harvest of animals, or participating in a mystical pagan cult. To counter such tactics, we need to articulate the reasons for and validity of our perspective. We will not convince anyone. An old Quaker saying notes, "I have no defense against the closed mind." And the universal conversion is too much to require of anyone or any idea. Even so, an environmental ethic helps us to disavow unfair labels, influence personal and social perspectives on nature, and draw sympathetic persons to our camp. Reason 3, envisioning moral goals. An environmental ethic helps us clarify the moral ends which we wish to achieve in our relationships with nature. Take, for example, the end of achieving rights for nature. It's true that rights are a political concept created by human beings in the context of society and culture. Because of this, perhaps political rights are best reserved for human beings. But rights language has a much wider meaning, reflecting a distinction between political and moral rights. To assert that the rights of nature is not to say that nature has or can produce political rights. Rather, it is to claim that there are more or less right and moral ways to relate with nature, ways which should be recognized politically and reflected through law. This is similar to the abolitionist claim that African American rights were violated through slavery. Certainly, slaves did not have political rights under the Constitution. They were human property. Yet to say slaves had moral rights was perfectly comprehensible, however controversial. It was a call for law and politics to reflect the moral imperatives of liberty and dignity for all human beings, regardless of the politically and morally irrelevant criteria of skin color. There are other reasons for the importance of environmental ethics, but space demands they await another discussion. Let us return to our story. You spent last year reading environmental ethics. While attending a political fundraiser, you were drawn into an argument about environmentalism. Does that sound familiar? The lobbyist from some extraction company states that environmentalism is a special interest movement of the rich who are seeking to protect their favorite vacation spots. You debate with him about the history of the movement, the connections with public and environmental health, the aspirations of the working class people for a better quality of life, the injustice of imposing risks upon others through the building of polluting power plants and mines, the racism behind placing toxic waste and tailing dumps in poverty-stricken areas in North America and the developing world, the corporate greed behind calls for markets in clean air and water, and the centrality of green politics to the populist revolutions in Eastern Europe. You demonstrate a clear grasp of social ethics and the political economy of environmentalism. In desperation, the lobbyist pulls out his trump card and says, "Isn't there something wrong with those who care more about loons than people?" He says, "All this talk about environment values and justice is just a facade. My company is interested in providing jobs for unemployed people. That's justice. All you really care about is nature, and you're willing to sacrifice a man's livelihood for it." Your reply is cogent. First off, I don't accept the notion that we must destroy the environment in order to have jobs. People and nature are compatible. The trick is to find appropriate development to preserve the integrity of both. Second, you're advocating a form of unsustainable development, a flash in the pan. You'll go in, hire a few low-wage workers, leave with the profits, and the people will be worse off than before. They won't have a decent job, and they'll have a degraded environment. What's the ethics in that? Finally, I do care about loons, and so should you. They are beings who with needs of their own. They have just as much moral right to be there as you or I, and we are obligated to take their needs into account. "That's nonsense," he replies. "Loons don't have moral rights. They aren't human. And besides, if they did, it's us or them. Mankind's our loon. And people are on top of the list as far as I'm concerned." Seems to me you're stuck in a dualistic way of thinking about things. Just because they are an animal that isn't human, doesn't mean it can't have moral rights. That's called speciesism. And as for this us-them talk, there's no reason to think of everything in terms of hierarchies centered on human beings. That's called anthropocentrism. That's a tricky one. Why don't you think in terms of interconnections? If we are ever going to care for other people, we need to learn to care for nature itself as well. Clearly exasperated, the lobbyist stalks off, muttering. An aide to the senator, however, approaches you. Having overheard your conversation, she is impressed with the way you handled yourself and asks about your ideas for an environmentally sound and sustainable development. Do you want this scenario to sound familiar? It can. So as you see, environmental ethics do matter. To prepare ourselves to live this storyline, we need only to discover, discuss, and defend our moral relationship with nature. Thank you. All right, so. now the purpose of the church is to encourage all who gather more generous in spirit and action. If you happen to be watching us online, we hope you'll consider making an offering in today's service through their webpage, uushenandoah.org. We will now gratefully receive an offering to sustain this self-supporting church and its ministries within and beyond our walls. At this time, Bruce White will offer some words of reflection.
I first feel we should mention a key member of the Social Action and Justice Committee in putting together this service could not be here today. Corey Barnes had a great deal to do with helping us put together this service, and we appreciate his input. The second thing I'd like to say is that the title of the service is not original. I asked Ed Jaffe when we were talking about the service if he had a suggestion about where we might find some short readings for words for reflection and that sort of thing. And he told me that he was getting his from a book called The Earth Speaks. I asked him for the author of the book. At the moment, he couldn't remember it. So I Googled the title, The Earth Speaks, and although it may appear that we've stolen the title, so did one of the other of these authors. I found two books with the title, The Earth Speaks. The second has a subtitle, Honoring Indigenous Wisdom. It's edited by Leslie Goodman, and if you're interested in finding more about it, I encourage you. All the excerpts in it are considerably longer than we wanted for this service, so we've chosen what we wanted to read from this book, The Earth Speaks, edited by Steve Allen Matra and Bill Weiler. And I decided that it would be inappropriate for us not to include something by the, shall we say, the grandmother of the environmental movement in the United States. These are words by Rachel Carson, whom, if you don't know the title of her other books, you probably will remember Silent Spring, which really ushered in the environmental movement, in which she warned us of the danger of chemical pesticides and the havoc that they were doing to various species, including our bald eagle. This excerpt comes from one of her earlier books, a trilogy of books about the ocean. This is called The Edge of the Sea. Once, this rocky coast beneath me was a plain of sand. Then the sea rose and found a new shoreline. And again, in some shadowy future, the surf will have ground these rocks to sand and will have returned the coast to its earlier state. And so, in my mind's eye, these coastal forms merge and blend in a shifting, kaleidoscopic pattern in which there is no finality, no ultimate and fixed reality. Earth becoming fluid as the sea itself.
I'll sing it. Okay, we'll all sing it. Hymn number 1064 in your little small teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home. It's got an environmental theme to go with our Earth Day service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of our community, or the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.